Welcome, Vault Dwellers. My name is Nacho Bidness, and today we are going to talk about the Fallout 76 beta, but we're going to do it while we're looking at Fallout 3, because, well, I got so excited to be playing in the beta that I kind of forgot to capture any footage from the beta. That's just the kind of professionalism that you're dealing with here on the Nacho Bidness channel. As it turns out, there are plenty of places where you can look at Fallout 76 beta footage, and if you would like to go see some of that, I wouldn't blame you. But I thought we'd take a look at Fallout 3 today for a couple of reasons while I ramble about my experience in the beta and give you my reactions. In part because I am here at the end of a run in Fallout 3. I've been playing Fallout 3 fairly consistently for a while, which is why I have not been posting anything lately, so sorry about that to anyone who was looking for some more posts from me. But yeah, I've been playing Fallout 3, and I think it's interesting to look at Fallout 3 in comparison to Fallout 76 and realize just how far we have come in 10 years, because in just a few days it will be the 10th anniversary of the release of Fallout 3, which was of course the first-person Fallout game and the first Fallout game released by Bethesda, because that was released on October 31st, 2008. So it's been almost exactly 10 years, and it is astonishing how much better Fallout 76 looks compared to Fallout 3. And that, I thought, was maybe an okay reason and an okay background for why we're looking at Fallout 3 instead of Fallout 76 itself. I mean, just look at Megaton, right? When we first saw Megaton in 2008, we were all kind of blown away at how big and complex and wondrous it was, and now it just looks kind of blah. So 10 years can certainly make a big difference. I've gotten to play the beta for a total of 8 hours so far, and I've been doing that with a fellow YouTuber whose name is Draco Invictus. I have, of course, mentioned his channel many times before, but I will link that again in the description below. If you'd like to see myself and him and several other YouTubers playing 76 together, certainly go take a look at one of the reruns for one of his streams. And in fact, if you would like to play 76 with me on Xbox, because that's the platform I'm on, I will leave my gamertag in the description below. And if you want to do that, I would say make sure to send me a friend request, and maybe say, with a message, hey, I know you from YouTube, so I know you're not just a completely random person showing up on my Xbox. At any rate, playing with friends has actually been a lot more fun than I would have expected. I really did think that I would not enjoy a multiplayer Fallout experience, but as it turns out, there have been some really fun interactions that have happened because of the multiplayer aspect of the game. And in fact, the first beta session, I was not able to get my microphone working, and it felt oddly lonely running around the wasteland with all these familiar names showing up all around me, and yet I wasn't able to speak with any of them. The cooperative aspect of multiplayer has been a lot of fun. For example, I accidentally sold all my stim packs. And with charisma of 1, which is what you start with, your stim packs sell for 2 or 3 caps apiece. But to buy them costs 100 caps, and caps are fairly rare in Fallout 76, so it would have been just a crippling thing. And in a single player game, I would have just loaded a previous save, but of course with a persistent multiplayer game, I couldn't just load a previous save after I accidentally misclicked and sold all my stim packs. Fortunately, the people I was playing with took pity on me and were able to donate some stim packs to me and basically get me up and running again. It was a thing that just would have never happened in single player, and that kind of made it special. There's also been some very fun moments about, for example, I just kind of charged around a corner and happened to save Quick Smoke from a super mutant. I just like lunged into action with a sharp baseball bat and managed to beat the super mutant to death right in front of Quick Smoke's eyes. He was thankful, and then able later to return the favor and pick off somebody that was stalking me, a Scorched character, which are the kind of half ghoul, half raider characters that are in that game. Quick Smoke was able to pick that guy off without me even realizing that there's something going on. So that kind of give and take between your fellow players is a lot of fun. Now, I will say that there kind of ends up being this kind of push and pull when it comes to pacing, because there were times when I wanted to stop, look around, and explore a little bit more, and the people on my team were saying, you know, hey, let's go, and vice versa. There were times when I was like, I'm done with this area, why are we still here? And everyone was still busy looting and crafting and doing other stuff, and I was kind of just standing around. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows when it comes to multiplayer, but then again, that's the case with any real human relationship, right? There's always some give and take. Now, as far as the building system goes, that of course is near and dear to my heart, because that is what most of my YouTube channel has been about, is building in Fallout 4. And it turns out that the building system in 76 is, at least out of the gate, feels very stunted. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, you can hardly build anything without finding a schematic or plans. You know, for example, in Fallout 4, you were able to pretty much right out of the vault build a very complete settlement. You did still have to get the occasional perk to unlock things, but aside from that, the only things that were really missing were some picket fences magazines that let you build the actual picket fences, some statues, some lawn furniture, pink flamingos, a few other random odds and ends that you weren't really missing if you never unlocked them. Whereas in 76, you can't build hardly anything straight out of the gate. You have to go find plans for a water pump. You have to find plans for a chemistry station, or an ammo workbench, or a armor workbench, or a weapons workbench. You have to find plans for concrete pieces or brick pieces. You have to find plans for different kinds of doors. I mean, almost everything requires some kind of unlock. And that's good and bad, right? Because it rewards gameplay and means that people are going to be out there exploring the world instead of just huddled up in their camps and building. The other thing that I did not really care for when it comes to building in 76, at least so far, is that it feels very stunted when it comes to the kind of creativity that we've been used to being able to do in Fallout 4. The pillar glitch, for example, does not work in Fallout 76. I haven't checked the rug glitch yet. I don't know if that works yet or not, because I don't have the plans to build rugs. There's... Everything must be snapped to something else, and there's very little freedom of movement when it comes to building pieces, and that makes me worry somewhat that we're going to have less creative builds where, you know, people are doing stuff like, for example, when I bashed together a steam tractor for the G4 XP build challenge, simply not possible, at least so far with what I've seen in the build menus for 76. Now that may change over time. They may unlock new abilities. We may find new glitches and exploits. Who knows? I mean, if you remember the state of building when we were first introduced to it in Fallout 4, people were like, "Man, this sucks. This, it's hard to do. Nothing goes the way that I want." And then some guys started coming along like no respawns, for example, when he started fixing sanctuary house roofs, and evil genius. Maybe we'll find new ways to do things in 76. Maybe we won't, and maybe the only way to do stuff is going to be the way Bethesda allows. But I think that there's a long way to go, and it's maybe a little too early to just completely write off building in 76. The other thing that I noticed, and of course is near and dear to my heart especially, is the electrical system in Fallout 76 is greatly changed. I was very disappointed to find out that there are no logic gates, not yet. Maybe in a DLC, but at least for now, no logic gates available in 76, because even though almost everything in the electrical menu is locked out, because I don't have the plans, I can still see what is available in those menus when I scroll through. So I will try to capture some footage of that during the next beta session, of just like, so what's in the electrical menus, what can we expect to be able to build, and maybe what can we speculate on how we can get creative with those things. There are some exciting new pieces that I saw. For example, I saw a door with a combination lock keypad on it that means that all those super complicated combination locks that I've built in Fallout 4 will be completely unnecessary, which again is good and bad, right? Because on the one hand, I greatly enjoyed figuring those out and the challenge of it. On the other hand, I think that stuff was by and large just too complicated for the average viewer to follow along my tutorials. I mean, I did the very best that I could, but they were still very complex builds. Some of them were requiring, upwards of like 10 or 12 logic gates, interval switches, and power counters and all kinds of other stuff to actually make them work. And that's just a heck of a time investment for the average player to put a dang lock on a door, and especially in a world where thievery is something that can happen if you're not careful. You've got these things called stash boxes that only you can access, but things like quick smoke down plans for a water purifier, and built it and came back. He's like, I don't think this thing is working because there's no water in it. What he did not realize was that we had everyone else in our group had kind of stumbled along this and said, "Oh, quick smoke got a water purifier, and oh, there's water inside of it." Took some, and so by the time he got back, there was none left for him. So in a world where there's where stealing is definitely something that can happen, being able to lock doors is going to be important. And not having to do many electrical builds to make that happen is reassuring for the average player and disappointing for someone like myself, who would have been like, yeah, I built a lock on that door and I'm not going to get through it. What about it? You know? So yeah, that's my thoughts on the building system. As far as the rest of the game goes, it's very pretty. The density of objects in Fallout 76 is much increased compared to even in Fallout 4, for example. If you would look at your average room in Fallout 4, there'd be like 2 or 3 items on a shelf, and like that'd be it. Like the level of decoration and detail that we have grown accustomed to putting into our settlements is far beyond what actually Bethesda did in the base game. But with 76, that's different. There's just a lot more going on visually. The other thing that surprised me and very much pleased me about 76 was that there was very little reuse of assets. I expected that we would, see an awful lot of Fallout 4 assets reused. In fact, I expected most of the assets to be reused from Fallout 4, and it turns out that that's not the case. I mean, obviously I don't have an exact number or anything, but just kind of eyeballing it, I think that there's probably less than 10% of the buildings and structures and signs and that kind of stuff that have been reused, and the stuff that has been reused is stuff that would make sense. So, for example, Nuka-Cola ads and prepackaged food like Blamco mac and cheese and sugar bombs and that kind of stuff is reused from Fallout 4, and that makes sense because those were nationwide brands and they would look the same everywhere. Whereas the houses and public buildings and that kind of stuff look very different in Appalachia compared to what they look like in the Commonwealth. So that was a pleasant surprise and very much appreciated, and I am so glad that map is 4 times as big as the map in Fallout 4. And I was a little afraid that would mean that it would just be less dense, it would feel empty. It really doesn't. There's just enough things going on as far as, like, if you're just wandering through the woods, you can still be, spending your time gathering plants and food and other resources, so that when you get back to your camp, you have more building materials available to you. Same thing with towns where there's kind of stuff everywhere. And at no point did I feel like the place was too empty. I was never bored with just walking through an area and saying like, well, there's just nothing going on right now. Whereas like here in Fallout 3, you've probably noticed that there's been a lot of times where if I wasn't talking, there was just kind of nothing happening. Right? There's just a lot more empty space in Fallout 3 where nothing's going on. So another thing that I really did like about the beta, things that I didn't like, I feel like the survival mechanics with water and food are an annoyance rather than a challenge. The main thing is that you just got to pay attention and make sure you carry some water and some food with you at all times, and that's kind of it. Like, the food does rot, and that was a nasty surprise when I logged in, and all the food from the previous session had rotted away, and I was suddenly stuck without any food, but just a little bit of hunting and a little bit of cooking later, and I was fine. maybe those mechanics get more challenging in the higher level areas. In Fallout 4, the further south you moved, kind of the more challenging the enemies would become. In Fallout 76, the further east you move, the more challenging enemies become. And after 8 hours in that game, I feel like I have barely scratched the surface of the first of the 4 major areas. We've kind of just barely crossed into the next area to the east, and even then, like, we've only got a couple locations, and there are dozens and dozens of locations that we have not unlocked or discovered yet. So I think there will be plenty to do for quite some time. So yeah, didn't really care for the survival mechanic, but other than that, and the survival mechanic, and I also didn't, so far at least, don't care for building. But other than that, man, it's a Fallout game, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to play with friends. And so far, I've not run into any griefers. Now that may change as time goes on and people get better equipment and get more confident with the systems. And we'll just have to see how that goes. One last thing I'll mention is that I've actually been doing pretty good this time around, but I normally am just a very, very heavy VATS player, and I was nervous about not being able to aim. I am not a good Twitch gamer. The real-time VATS system in 76 feels very natural. I like it a lot, and as someone who has trouble aiming on his own in video games, that means that whoa, there's a lot of guys there. We're just gonna go the other way because I'm not gonna be able to talk and go into that heavy a combat. So anyways, so as someone who has trouble aiming on their own, I felt fine using the real-time VATS system. It's nice being able to just pop it up and kind of wave your gun in the general direction you want and just pull the trigger when the percentage is high. Haven't unlocked the ability to target specific body parts yet. We'll see if I like that or not. As of right now, it's everything's been so low level that it hasn't really mattered. But yeah, once we get to where we can unlock targeting specific body parts, I'll have to report back and see how that feels. At any rate, if you're still here and still listening, thanks a lot for that. I'm touched and honored that you value my opinion. If you would like to play with me, like I said, gamertag for Xbox is down below. Send me a message. I'll also post a link to my Discord channel. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you didn't like, please tell me why in the comments so that I can try and do better next time. And if you want to see more, and eventually, I swear, I will actually remember to hit record and get some 76 beta footage. So if you'd like to see some of that, be sure to subscribe. Until next time, my name is Nacho Bidness, and I'm saying it's a great big wasteland out there. And what are these slavers doing here? These guys, bad slavers. Anyways, until next time, my name is Nacho Bidness, and I'm saying it's a great big wasteland out there. Let's go have fun in it.